If the planet Mars is really the manifestation of a timeline of humanity, or humanity in a different time and density, as we discussed in our last episode, is there any evidence of human beings that once existed on the red planet? Does this Martian incarnation of humanity ever overlap with our own? As Bowie says, is there life on Mars? Well, there are certainly groups that seem to think so. Project Stargate was a classified program developed in the 1970s by the CIA. The program's objective was to provide an overview on remote viewing or psychic spying. The program was led by none other than Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ, with the help of psychics like Ingo Swann. Project Stargate had two separate aspects. One was the remote viewing side, which trained participants to gather intelligence psychically. And the other aspect gathered that data and conducted research on it. While Project Stargate is nothing new in the alternative media, what many people miss about Project Stargate is that using psychics to gather data is an age-old practice. Going to an oracle for guidance and insight on the unknown has been a regular practice for leaders and governments for millennia. It is only in recent years that mystics have been relegated to the sidelines, their work and influence hidden from public view. Queen Elizabeth I had John Dee, and Alexander the Great traveled to the Libyan desert to sit at the feet of the Oracle of Siwa. The Oracle of Delphi was the Pythia for the political leaders in Greece. She decided when and how to go to war and advised on how the most difficult political situations could be solved. Vestal virgins provided spiritual nourishment, protection, and guidance for the Roman world. President Nixon had Jane Dixon, and nearly every government in the world now has their own version of psychic spying and even psychic warfare. These practices have not stopped. They've just gone underground because the information that comes through these mediums is so valuable and so secret that to reveal it to the world is to reveal oneself. So, while programs like this are portrayed in mainstream culture as off-the-wall experiments by kooky scientists, what is really occurring is the modernization of an already existing kind of worship and spiritual practice. It is the scientific approach to the oracle. Stanford Research Institute and the Monroe Institute were also scientific bodies whose purpose was to modernize the oracle, to mechanize the role of the oracle, to develop a kind of psychic science. How it worked was that the psychics would be given an envelope with information inside, often coordinates or a location. The psychic would then use a specific protocol psychically gather data on the coordinates. And getting back to our theme, one of the targets within Project Stargate was to remote view the planet Mars. The Mars session occurred May 22nd, 1984. The specific target written in the envelope was the planet Mars. Time of interest, approximately 1 million BC. And in this session, there were 7 specific target locations on Mars. Here is a reading of that session. All right now, using the information in the envelope I've provided, exclusively focusing your attention now, using the information in the envelope, focus on 40.89 degrees north and 9.55 degrees west. I want to say it looks like I don't know. It sort of looks like I kind of got an oblique view of a pyramid or a pyramid form. It's very high. It's kind of sitting in a large depressed area. All right. It's yellowish, ochre colored. All right. Move in time to the time indicated in the envelope I provided for you and describe what's happening. I'm tracking severe clouds, more like dust storm. It's a geologic problem. Seems to be like just a minute. Got to iron this out. It's really weird. Just report your raw perceptions at this time. You're still early in the session. I'm looking at a after effect of a major geologic problem. Okay, go back to the time before the geologic problem. Total difference. It's before. There's no I don't know. Oh hell. It's like mountains of dirt appear and then disappear when you go before. See large flat surfaces, very smooth, angles, walls. They're really large though. I mean, they're megalithic. All right. At this period in time, now before the geologic activity, look around, in and around this area, and see if you can find any activity. I'm seeing it's like a perception of a shadow of people, very tall, thin. It's only a shadow. It's as if they were there and they're not there anymore. Go back to the period of time where they are there. Um, it's like I get a lot of static on the line and everything, it's breaking up all the time. Very fragmentary pieces. Just report the raw data. Don't try to put things together. Just report the raw data. I just keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large, wearing some kind of strange clothes. All right, now holding in this time period, I want to move from your physical location in space to another physical location. But in this time period, move now to 46.45 north to 353.22 east. Move in this time to 46.45 north, 353.22 east. Deep inside of a cavern, not a cavern, more like canyon. I'm looking up the sides of a steep wall that seemed to go on forever. And there's like a structure with it's like a wall of the canyon itself has been carved. Again, I'm getting a very large structures. No intricacies, huge sections of smooth stone. Do the structures have insides and outsides? Yes, it's like a rabbit warren. Corners of rooms, they're really huge. I don't feel like I'm standing in one. It's just really huge. Perception is that the ceiling is very high, walls very wide. Yes, that would be correct. All right, I'd like to move now to another location nearby. All right, move from this point in this time to 45.86 north, 354.1 east. 4586 north and 354.1 east. I have appears to be the end of a very large road, and there's a marker thing that's very large. Keep getting Washington Monument overlay. It's like an obelisk. All right, from this point then, let us move to another point. Move now to 35.26 north, 213.22 east. Move in this time to 35.26 north, 213.24 east. It's like I'm in the middle of a huge circular basin of the range of mountains almost all the way around. Very ragged. Ragged mountains, very tall. Basin's very, very, very large. Scale seems to be off or something. It's just really big. Everything's really big. I understand the problem. Just continue. See, just a right angle corner to something, but that's all. I don't see anything else. Okay, then let's move into a little different place. Very close. Move from the point you are now in this time to 34.6 north, 213.09 east. Move now in this time to 34.6 north to 213.09 east. The cluster of squares up and down, it's like you want to make them square anyway. They're almost flush with the ground and it's like they're connected. Something very white or reflective light. What's your position of observation as you look at this thing that reflects light? I'm amid a oblique left-right angle. Sun is weird. Look back down at the ground now, and we're going to move just a little bit from this place, 34.57 north, 212.22 east. Very close by. Now move over now to 34.57 north, 212.22 east. It's like I can just perceive like a radiating pattern of some kind. It's like some really strange intersecting kind of roads that are dug into valleys, where a road is just a little below the edge. Tell me about the shape of these things. They're like real neat channels cut. They're very deep. It's like the road went down. Okay, now I notice electrically you're nulled out a little bit, and I want you to stay deep and recapture your focus here. It's really tough. It seems like it's just always very sporadic. I realize that. It's very important that you maintain your focus. I have a movement exercise again for you, and this is some considerable distance away. So holding the focus in time, remember the focus in time that you had before, and moving now to 15 degrees north, 198 degrees east. Take some time and get back deep. See, the interesting, whatever these are aqueduct type things, these rounded bottom carved channels like road beds. See pointed tops of something on the horizon. Even the horizon looks funny and weird. It's like a different misty. It's like really far away, very vague. Okay, another movement now to 80 degrees south, 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east, 64 degrees east. Move now and this time to 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east. See pyramids. Can't tell if it's overlay or not because they're different. Okay. Do these pyramids have insides and outsides? Got both, and they're huge. It's really an interesting perception I'm getting. I think that he's losing his ability to move accurately, but he's attracted to things that are interesting. So we're going to go with his own. We're going to let him go ahead and explore what he seems to be interesting to him, rather than move to the targets indicated here. It's filtering from storms or something. Say that again. They're like shelters from storms. These structures you're seeing. Yes, they're designed for that. All right, go inside one of these and find some activity to tell me about. Different chambers, but they're almost stripped of any kind of furnishings or anything. It's like strictly functional place for sleeping, or that's not a good word. Hibernations. Some form. I get real raw inputs. Storms, savage storm, and sleeping through storms. Tell me about the ones who sleep through the storms. Uh, very tall. Again, very large people. But they're thin. They look thin because of their height, and they dress like oh hell, it's a real light silk, but it's not flowing type of clothing. It's like cut to fit. Move close to one of them and ask them to tell you about themselves. They're ancient people. They're dying. It's past their time or age. Tell me about this. They're very philosophic about it. They're looking for a way to survive, and they just can't. Can't seem to get their way out. They can't seem to find their way out. They're hanging on while they look or wait for something to return, or something coming with an answer. What is it that they're waiting for? There evidently was a group or a party of them that went to find a new place to live. It's like I'm getting all kinds of overwhelming input of the corruption of their environment. It's failing very rapidly, and this group went somewhere, like a long way to find another place to live. What was the cause of the atmospheric disturbance or the environmental disturbance? I see a picture like oh hell, it's a warp and oh god, this is difficult. It's like going, let's see, the raw data. Oh, I get a globe. It's like a globe that goes through a comet's tail, or it's through a river of something, but it's all very cosmic. It's like space pictures. All right, now before you leave this individual, ask him if there is any way that ask him if he knows who you are, and is there any way you can help him in his present predicament? All I get is that they must just wait. Doesn't know who I am. I think he perceives I'm a hallucination or something. Okay, when the others left, these people are waiting. When the others left, how did they go? Get an impression of don't know what the hell it is. It looks like the inside of a larger boat. Very rounded walls and shiny metal. Go along with them on their journey and find out where it is they go. Impression of a really crazy place with volcanoes, gas pockets, and strange plants. Very volatile place. It's very much like going from the frying pan into the fire. Difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation where the other place did not have it, and different kind of storms. All right, it's time to come back now to the sound of my voice into present time, to right now, the 22nd of May, 1984. Sound of my voice. Now move back to the room, back to the sound of my voice, back to further now to the sound of my voice on the 22nd of May, 1984. This remote viewing session reveals an advanced civilization on Mars. Civilization with megaliths and high technology. We discovered this society was dying and looking for another planet to colonize to survive. It was revealed much later in Joe McMonagle's book, Mind Trek, that he was the remote viewer that day. He says that he conducted that session with Robert Monroe of the Monroe Institute using hemisync technologies. And in his book, Mind Trek, he mentions things not found in the CIA file. He mentions that he was unaware that he was remote viewing Mars, so he believed that the people he was seeing was a future version of humanity. He felt as though they had been mutated over time. He didn't see them as alien, but rather a parallel kind of humans. Humans who were, quote, one step removed from where we are now, and that he was reading the Akashic records rather than the reality records. It was interesting to read that McMonagle did not see the Martians as alien, as often portrayed in media and science fiction. He saw them as a parallel kind of human, a human type that was, quote, in the same system as us, just once removed. The interviewer also asks whether the Mars civilization were exploding atomic bombs, which led to their demise. But Joe felt their planet was dying due to a more cosmic event or natural process. Joe also felt as though he was in Egypt or an Egyptian-like civilization. He went on to draw images of the structures and beings that he saw in that session, and they're also included in his book. So, the CIA worked with the Monroe Institute to specifically look at Cydonia, the face on Mars, pyramids, and other man-made structures. There was a specific interest in the humans that were on Mars at that time, a little over 1 million years ago. But it makes you wonder, how much more is known now that technology has become so much better? And why is this information being kept secret? What will eventually be disclosed about Mars? How will it be disclosed? Is there something bigger going on here? That there is a group that knows a lot about Mars. Since this episode is based on Joe McMonagle's remote viewing of Mars, I'm going to give him the last word on what he experienced. I can believe there was a race of humanoids who fought for survival on neighboring Mars. I can believe they dispatched a lifeboat of some sort to seek out a place where they might flee. If they possessed the technology to build large pyramids on the surface of Mars, even if it meant constructing them from existent mountains, then they most certainly might have had the ability to reach Earth. Unfortunately, I don't know this to be true. The way to find out would be to target the city of pyramids, or perhaps the monumental pyramid adjacent to the crater, or maybe the face and Great Pyramid, or the structure with the triangular wall beside it, with a soft landing exploratory vehicle. Given the probable cost and potential for discovery, I would think that people in our government wouldn't hesitate to investigate it. Probably wouldn't cost more than a nuclear submarine. Maybe it's fear that prevents us from doing so. Such a discovery would alter the course of history as we know it. We would have to acknowledge that we weren't the species supreme in our universe. Impact on religions and philosophy alone would be incredible. Martians aside, I will say that in my own mind, I have become convinced there are other species of beings coexisting, probably living with and amongst us. They may occupy space-time in a harmonic way, but they are there nevertheless. Perhaps just acknowledging the possibility would expand our sense of responsibility within our own world, our own place in time-space. What do you think? Thank you for joining me today. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you enjoy my content, please consider supporting me by becoming a premium member on my website, where I go even deeper into topics like this, or making a one-time donation. I am completely supported by you. Without further ado, I will see you next week with a new episode of In Plain Sight.